Hi, everyone. This is Jay Rosenzweig, the founder and CEO of BirthParentFinder.com. I have with me today Uniqua, who is a client of ours, and we solved her case probably in about 3 months. And she was actually able to meet her birth father. She was adopted. She was in foster care. She knew her birth mother, and birth mother was a little helpful in help finding the birth father. But welcome, Uniqua. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good, and thank you for doing this. I know it's been a while, and you were a little apprehensive about doing this. And again, thank you for being here today.
You're welcome.
So I remember this was about a year ago that you came to us to find your birth father, and we did not have his name. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And you had ancestry DNA results
Yes.
with cousins that were no better than second and third, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right?
Yes, they're very close.
Well, there were no first cousins. We just didn't know who these people were because they were on your ancestry results. Is that correct?
Yes.
I remember talking to you on the phone. We're going over the DNA, and we were able to get a hold of a few relatives. And I know you spoke to some people, and we were looking at Facebook, and we concluded that the last name, we figured out the last name of the birth father, but I guess there were other people involved. We didn't know if it was the right guy. And then finally, we got a picture of the guy off of Facebook and saw that based on the description from your birth mother that he had a mole on his face. And sure enough, this guy had a mole, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, and it was unique. And we didn't know how to get a hold of this guy. We didn't want to think this guy thought it was a scam. And a lot of people think it's a scam when we reach out. So what happened was I confirmed where he worked, and I was able to get a letter sent. We have a form letter that we use, a very nice letter. It's conformed to the client and what the situation was. And I found out where he worked. He worked at like a warehouse. We had the exact address. We sent the letter there. And from the time he got the letter, how long did it take him to respond to you?
I don't remember the exact timestamp. But I want to say maybe all of between a couple of weeks to maybe a month's time span. It wasn't right away because I believe I remember reaching back out about the letter and the response. But I do know there were a couple of weeks in between that time.
And I remember you messaged me saying he finally reached out. So
Yeah.
tell me when he reached out, what did he say and what happened?
So when he reached out, I was at the eye doctor and I got a call that came in and I didn't answer it because I was, getting service at the eye doctor, and I was driving home and then two messages came in and they read, "Hi, meet me at blah 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 address," and I was kind of stunned because I seen the address, but then when I also seen the title of the company where he worked at, I was kind of shocked as well because I was like, wait, I just took my car there. So I'm like, okay, maybe this is a game. And then I looked at it again and I was like, oh my gosh, this is my dad that's writing me. And I parked my car, and it was basically just him saying that he got the letter, and to meet him at the provided address on a set date.
And did he acknowledge that he's the right guy at that point?
When I called him on the phone, because I was still devastated, I felt terrible for missing the call. I felt like I should have answered, like been able to answer the phone right away. So I did call back, and he did confirm on the phone that he was my dad.
And then you met him how long after that conversation?
Jeez, I don't remember the exact timestamp, but I want to say that was probably, I want to say maybe like 2 weeks, because I remember I had like a countdown on my work computer, and I was like, okay, I'm nervous. This day is going to be here, and I'm just so nervous. I want to say it was about 2 weeks that I had to wait.
And that's 26 years later?
26 years later.
Wow. And then you met him, and what was that like?
Wow. So when I met him and I seen him, I was nervous because I was on time. He kind of got there like a minute late, so I was thinking maybe like he gave me the wrong address or something. I was just really worried. My fiance actually rode with me. Got out the car, and I remember getting out the car, and I seen him because my fiance was like, "I think that's him," and I'm like, "Is it? Is that the car that he said he was going to be in?" And I got out. I walked over there, and he's walking up to me, and I'm walking up to him, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, like this is really happening! Wow!" So it was like a dream come true moment. So it's something I waited my whole life for that I never thought would even be possible. So gave him a hug, and truthfully, I thought that when I first seen him, I was gonna cry, but I didn't have like any tears or anything. I was just really shocked to actually be able to see what he looked like, be able to feel. I just always had a lot of questions, throughout my whole life. So when I was actually able to just give him a hug, because he gave me a hug as well, I was just so shocked at, like, wow, this is my dad after all these
Did he
years.
know that your birth mother was pregnant and had a baby?
No, when we discussed that conversation, he was not aware of that information.
This must have been the ultimate shock for him then.
I think it truly was.
So the meeting you had with him, just tell me what he said to you and what
Well,
you learned.
when I met him, we actually drove to a different city, and we talked all the way to the restaurant, and we hung out for the day. My fiance took part in that as well. We basically just kind of like just asked each other questions, a little background, getting to know each other. And then we went to a restaurant to eat, and we got to know each other a little bit more there. Um, I went a little further into detail because he did ask me one of the most important questions that really mattered to me, and still to this day it does. But he asked how long had I been looking for him, and I told him, I've been looking for him my whole life, and he kind of got a little emotional because he didn't realize that I even existed, and he felt like maybe during the time that him and my mother had crossed paths, she probably didn't tell him due to the fact that she was scared that he would take me back to Mexico. Um, After that, we drove back to the meeting spot, and then he got in his car. He gave me a hug, and then he left, and we had planned to meet again after that.
And you did take pictures, and you sent them to me. I saw that.
Yes.
And you told me that you have not seen him since.
Well, I met him again. We met another time where we did the same thing, hung out, still got to know each other. That time, I took my daughter with me, so she was able to meet him. He was super thrilled. Like you could really see all the emotion. He was excited. I was a little nervous because my daughter hadn't seen him before, but she literally just was comfortable the whole time. So I felt a lot better. And after that time when we met, it was in September. I hadn't seen him after that time, the second time that we met.
Do you know if he told his family about you?
I'm going to be truthful. I don't know the truth on if he told them or if they found out. I will say that I did get a call back in. So from after that in September, October was the next month. So I remember I was taking pictures of my daughter like for the Halloween, and I sent him a couple, and I didn't get a response. And it wasn't until um, November, around the date a little bit, I was kind of getting a little worried because my daughter's first birthday was coming up. So I was wondering like, okay, when if he's going to come to the birthday party? Because I sent him the invite as well. And then I got a call. I was at work and I had my headphones in my ear, and it said incoming call from dad. And I was like, oh gosh, where's my phone at? Where's my phone at? Because I hadn't heard from him. So I went and answered. And when I answered the phone, I realized that it wasn't him. It was actually the younger sibling on my dad's side. And he was basically telling me that he was out of town with some family. He didn't have his phone. Truthfully, I thought that that was really weird that an adult didn't have their phone. And he asked me some questions, like, was I his sister? Was, our dad? He asked how many times have we met? And at that point, I kind of got a feeling as to what was happening. And I was, pretty much like, I'll just let him explain that to you because I didn't feel comfortable sharing that kind of information, with him because I didn't know exactly what was said what, who figured out anything. And then the call had kind of got a little weird because he said that, well, it's interesting to know that I have another sister, but I look forward to meeting you soon and maybe that we can, figure out where the miscommunication came in at. So I was like, okay. So I was kind of a little bit happy and excited, with all of that. And then after that, the next day, I had got a text message stating to no longer reach out again due to our dad not being able to talk to me anymore.
So do you think they thought this might have been a scam?
In my heart, from the knowledge that I've gained, I don't think that.
It's just maybe they just didn't want anything to do with you. They were hurt. People take things differently, but I mean,
Yes.
what's your ultimate thoughts on that?
My ultimate thoughts is I look at it from both perspectives. So from my dad's perspective, I look at it like he lived his whole life without not knowing he had another child. And knowing that he was married with kids that he's raised his whole life, I can get it to where if a person came in and they mysteriously say, "Hi, I'm your daughter," it can kind of be, off in a sense of like, okay, you're here now. From my perspective, I look at it like I've been looking for my dad, my whole life. I've always wanted to know who he was. And I've always just wanted to have that special relationship. So from his perspective, I see that from their family, how it could kind of just be, we don't know who she is. Like, we don't want to know who she is. We've lived our whole life without even knowing, that she even existed. And we don't want her to come in and mess up our family.
It's interesting. I get a lot of cases like this, and usually they involve older people.
Yeah.
I had one this week. This birth parents are deceased, but
Mm-hmm.
this client had a full-blooded sister, and I connected them, and they were just really happy to connect, and they can't wait to meet. They live on different sides of the country, but the parents are deceased, and obviously at this point, no one's going to get hurt. They're in their 60s, 70s, and you're young. You're in your 20s. And how old are your siblings?
One of my siblings is 28. That would be the oldest. I'm the one that's 26. I also have a sibling that is as well as 26. So he was born in the same year that I was born. And I want to say that my dad stated that the younger sibling was 21.
So was your dad married at the time?
I truthfully can't remember, but I would like to assume that he was because he stated that he was married for a very long time.
And is his wife still alive?
Yes.
So that's probably the problem.
It is the problem.
That's there you go. That's the problem, and it's difficult because he obviously had an affair on her with your birth mom, and everything has been confirmed. Is there any doubt in his mind that you're not his daughter?
No, absolutely not.
Well, it's interesting because did he want to see the DNA? Did he want to see the proof, or just everything just added up?
Everything just added up. And even when we were at the restaurant table, I asked him, if he would still be interested in doing it. And he said, no, he didn't want to do it, that he could look at me and tell that I was his daughter. He also showed his brother a photo of me, and his brother was just as surprised and was like, yeah, that's your daughter.
And also his family's DNA connected to you.
Yes.
And it wasn't easy. I mean, I did not have to use a genealogist on this case because it's all right there. The family trees were pretty large, and the people were cooperative. So
Yes.
plus the non-ID, the mole and everything, and they all had Facebook. It just really fell into place. And I remember telling you on the phone that I don't know. We spent about 30 minutes on the phone just putting the numbers together, going through everything, and everything just fell into place. It was just a matter of getting a hold of this guy.
Yep.
And we did it. It was just one of those things. And but from this whole experience, though, I mean, you got what you wanted. You found your birth father. You met him. Do you have closure, or do you want something else moving forward?
It's so funny. I watch a lot of your videos and I hear this question coming at the end. I will say, yes, I will say months ago, I did not have closure. I could not understand, why this happened the way it did. And here recently, I kind of still didn't have the closure. But then the more I thought about it, I can truly say now I have closure. Does it take away the emotions? No, because we're all human. But I can say I truly have closure. I do have the closure in meeting him. I have the closure in hearing his voice. I have the closure in seeing him. And I have closure in knowing exactly who he is. So even if I ever seen him again, in the world, then I would still know that's my dad. I have closure in knowing now that when someone asks me, who's your dad? I don't have to say, I don't know anymore. I can truly say, my dad is, and that would just be it.
Does he know you're getting married?
He does know I'm getting married.
And when is that going to be?
I don't have a set date yet, but an interesting fact, the last time that me and him were together, he expressed to me that his oldest daughter was getting married, and that will be actually this year in September.
So that's something he has on his mind. Obviously, that's his priority.
Yes,
But you won't
it
be getting
is.
married this year? No?
No, not this year. She's getting married this year, and um, he also informed me that it would be nice that if me and my daughter could have came to the wedding. So it just kind of threw me off when everything happened. I just truly could not understand it. And then it all made sense that, it's ultimately not him. It was more so of his wife's decision. And when you're in that type of situation with a family, I can't speak for that type of decision that he had to choose or had to make.
Would you want him there?
I would want him there. Absolutely. I think, I did closer to plan a date, but I think that once all this happened, it kind of just threw me completely off from keeping a date in stone, because I think every girl has that fairy tale dream of her dad handing her over.
So before he came along, did you have a father figure in your life?
I never had.
And now you found your father, and obviously it was a sticky situation with the affair. He had a family. They find out about you, and it's something they still need to process, I'm sure. And let me ask you this: do they see you on social media?
They do, just like how I see them on social media.
Right,
It's crazy because didn't mean to cut you off, but my sister actually seen my dad in Target.
Oh wow!
Yep.
I've heard stories like that before with other cases, not knowing that's the right person. So there's nothing on your social media that's shocking. It's fairly normal. You live a normal life. You're a good person. You have a regular job. You have a family. There's nothing to be jealous of, or nothing for them to worry about.
No, nothing at all.
Right. And I always tell people, I always vet my clients before I take their case, especially when I want to reunite with a parent or a sibling. I want to make sure you're in the right place. And I also want to make sure they're in the right place. And obviously they were, but it was the weird situation of him being married. If he was divorced, if his wife passed away, it would be a different story. But the thing is, his kids are still fairly young. I consider in your 20s still fairly young, not even understanding how to process this. Like I said, if you're in your 50s, 60s, it's a different mindset. But I believe they're going to come around. I mean, you're a good person. You're a human being. You have a soul, and they have to understand that you have feelings also. And I'm just glad you feel good about the fact that you met him. And if he doesn't want to reach out at this point again, it's okay. But how does your family feel about it?
My family, they are truly happy for me. Although it didn't necessarily, it's not going the way that I expected it to do so. My family, they are like head over heels for me. And for that, I love it because everyone knew how much it meant for me to know who my dad was. I think my mom takes it a little more personal, and I can understand that from a parent's perspective. But she also respects, the situation and, how all of it come about. And they don't talk about it because I guess it could still, very much so be triggering. But at times they still maybe ask like, hey, have you heard from your dad? And I'll just say, no, I haven't. And they'll say, oh, okay, well, just pray about it, and what's meant to be will be.
So I'm going to back up. I know I jumped ahead for a reason, but I'm going to back up to your childhood. Now, your birth mother did not place you for adoption right away. You were raised by your birth mother until you were 3?
No, so I was raised by my birth mother after being born for some time in there, and my aunts helped assisted my mom with taking care of me and my brother and my sister on my mother's side. And at that point, in 2000 February, we were placed into a home that was potentially going to adopt us. And then we were
You're not even 4
adopted.
years old then. You're still 3.
Yeah, so at that point, we were moving around in foster care within those years before we actually were
your mother
adopted.
couldn't raise you. There were circumstances.
Yes, there was specific circumstances as to why she was unable to raise us.
And then, were you legally adopted at some point?
I was legally adopted in July of 2001.
And how was your relationship with your adopted family?
So my adopted mother, she was married to my grandma's husband. I lived with her up until 8th grade, and she allowed me to go live with my aunt, which is my mom's sister. And we just moved in with my aunt, and my aunt, she didn't care. She's a family-oriented person, so anytime family is able to still be together as family, she's all for it.
Well, your adoption was within the family, basically.
Basically, yes.
Great. And then, when did you get together with your birth mom again after that?
I still had communication with my birth mom. We still seen her on the weekends that we would still go to my aunt's house. My adopted mother allowed us to go still visit family on the weekends, still spend holidays with them. And we still encountered with my birth mother as she was still there, but at some points of those times, she was incarcerated between some of the years of the early childhood.
Now, I remember speaking with your birth mother or your mother, and she was really nice on the phone. She was very helpful, and she really wanted you to find your father. And she just couldn't remember his name, but she remembered basically where he lived and the mole he had. And honestly, that was really instrumental in solving your case. Because the birth father could have been one of 6 men through DNA. We just didn't have enough information. We didn't even know how old he was. And we knew that she was about 20 at the time, right?
Somewhere around that age range,
Yeah.
yes.
And again, between DNA, Ancestry.com, and Facebook. Now, Facebook doesn't solve a lot of cases, but again, it was very instrumental in solving yours. And we have another one this week, a stale case from 2 years ago. Facebook helped solve that case too. They're very similar cases, but I'm really happy for you. I know it's getting late, but I just want to ask you one more question. So, how did you decide on using my company for your search?
I remember the Evelyn Lozada case, and at that time I was a little bit younger, and I seen it pop up on my timeline, and I was like, wonder what this is. And then I remember I filled out the inquiry form, and I got a call back from Linda, who was literally the sweetest, amazing lady ever. And I remember I kept playing the voicemail over and over and over because I was like, I wonder if this is a scam. And then I was like, no, it can't be because Evelyn is famous and they helped her. So this can't be a scam. So I called her back and she was very patient, very understanding at the time. I want to say that was in 2021 when I reached out. And she understood. I was like, well, I haven't taken an ancestry, and I did further research and I still kept researching. And I kind of had just forgot about it because I was still young. I was still, you know, living, but I still wasn't for sure if that was something I wanted to do right away. So it wasn't until I came across the case again. Somehow it literally crossed my social media again. And I was like, okay, let me look on here. And I looked and I started seeing a lot of cases. I started watching a lot of the videos. I started seeing the interviews, like as one that I'm doing now. And I was like, okay, this is legit. This is real. He's really talking to people. And I listened to the cases and I was like, okay, maybe my case won't turn out like that. Maybe it'll be this, maybe it won't. And I was like, okay, I'm still going to think about it because I'm not 100% sure, but I knew then that this was the company that I would use. And if I ever got to that point of needing to, you know, be able to help locate my father, then I would use you guys.
Well, I'm certainly glad you used our company, and you were a pleasure to work with. And
Yeah.
I always tell people I'm only as good as my clients let me be. And again, you were great to work with. We worked as a team because I remember that conversation on the phone with you for at least a half an hour. And I'm sitting here on the computer talking to you, and we kind of solved it together. And again, thank you. I know you're a busy person, and I truly hope that he does come to your wedding.
That would be amazing. But I thank you guys for working with me because I know I was like, I hope it doesn't take that long. But this is also something I've been waiting for. But you guys were truly amazing. I would recommend to anyone in the world that wants to locate a sibling, a parent, a family member, I would 100% recommend Birth Parent Finder.
Again, Uniqua, thank you again, and have a wonderful weekend. And we'll talk again soon.
Yeah, thank you. You too.
You're welcome.